Okay guys, so in this video I'll be walking you all through the redesigning of these alert components that I asked you all to design in your first task. Now, the purpose of this video is to do this with all of you so that you can learn one or two from this particular redesigning that I'm about to do now. Like I always say, it's a boot camp, right? We're here to learn. We're not here to get grades, or we're not here to be ranked, or we are not here to watch anybody design. We are here to learn. So I would want you all to stay with me till the end of this video and be patient. I would also try as much as possible to explain every detail. And also, at the end of this video, or by the end of this video, I'm going to announce the midweek task for this week. So please stay till the end of the video. If you don't stay till the end of the video, you might not get to know about the midweek task. So let's get started. Now, whenever you want to create any design, whenever you want to embark on any design task, the first thing to do is to prepare, right? You need to plan and prepare. So what you need to do is to, first of all, assess what you want to design. Simply look at what you want to design, analyze what you want to design, and ask yourself if you have the resources for what you want to design. Now, if you don't have all of the resources, it is up to you to find a way to get all the resources that you will need. Now, what do I mean by the resources? I mean things like the icons, things like the colors, things like the font, or the font families that you will need, and so on and so forth. You would first of all need to plan these things out first before you even start the designing of whatever you want to create. Now, in our own case here, we have these alert components, and as you can see, we have different colors. We have these alert components in different colors. This is in yellow, this is in red, this in green, this blue, this yellow, and I think this green. Yeah. So now the question is, do we know the color codes of these different colors? Of course we don't. We don't know the color codes of these different colors. You get it? So what do? Since it is a redesign, when it is a redesign, we try as much as possible to stay close to what we have. We try as much as possible to replicate what we are seeing, right? Although we are not going to have it replicated 100%, right? But we try as much as possible to ensure that it is close to what we are redesigning. So how do we get the colors of these alert components? Now, very simple. We can't use CSS paper here because this website, I think, does not allow us to use CSS paper on these components. And these components are actually coded components, right? So we can't use CSS paper. Now, there is a way out. We can take a screenshot of these components into Figma and then use the eyedropper tool in Figma to get the colors out of these components. And that's what I have done here. So in my own Figma file here, I have taken screenshots of those components, right? I've taken screenshots of them and I have them here in my Figma file. You all know how to bring images into your Figma file, right? We had covered this. So come here, take screenshots of these components. When you take screenshots of them, the screenshots will be saved in your computer as images. Then you will take those screenshots as images from your computer into Figma. And we all know how to do that. So now that we have, or now that I have these screenshots here, it will be time for me to get these color codes, right? Using the eyedropper tool. So let's start with this. Let's get the color code for this red background color and the color code for this red color used in the icon, right? So I would come here. We all know how to use the eyedropper tool. I am trying to get this red background color here. I would keep this rectangle selected there. Click on the color picker, select the eyedropper tool, then click on this background color, and then the color that's used in this background will be placed inside my rectangle. So that's the color right there. I would create another rectangle that will be used to get the color code for this red color used in this icon. I would come here, select the eyedropper tool, click on the red color in that icon, right? Click on the red color in that icon, and that's it. There I have the red color used in that icon. So I have the red color used in the background of this component, and I have the red color used in the icon of the same component. Now for the red colors used on the text or used for the text in this component, we might just wing that, right? Like I said, it's not 100% replication. So we might just play around with the colors for the text, make this dark red, make this not too dark also, and that's fine. So I have this. So I'll bring these here and I'll keep them there. Now let's get the colors for these other alerts here. I would create a rectangle here, keep the rectangle selected, bring the color picker, select the eyedropper tool, and then click on this blue background color here. And that's how I'll pick the color of this blue background color. Now this is me getting the color that is used here. Now if I select this rectangle, this is the color code here, EFF6FF. So this is the color code that is used on this background. So I can use it when I'm trying to redesign or trying to recreate mine, right? So I would create another rectangle here. And okay, I would use this rectangle to get the color, to get the blue color that's used on this icon, this blue color here. So I would keep this rectangle selected, come here, select the eyedropper tool, and then click on that blue color in that icon. And that's how I'll be able to pick that blue color and place it here in this rectangle. Now if I need that blue color anytime, I'll just come here, select this rectangle, and I would see the color code here, and I would use the color code. Now if you are not understanding what we are doing so far, it means you must have skipped those classes where we talked about colors and how to pick a color from one layer to another layer using the eyedropper tool. Now if you don't really understand, then you might want to go back and watch the recording of that class, because we had covered this, right? So let's come here, let's pick the colors for these screenshots. So I would come here, I would create a rectangle here, and I would use the eyedropper tool, and I'll pick this green background color, which is meant for this. All right, I'll pick this green background color, and that's the green background color which is used here. I would also come here and I will create another rectangle, and then right, bring up the color picker, take out or select the eyedropper tool, and I'll pick this green color that's used here in this icon, and that's the green color. So when I'm creating or when I am recreating my own design and I have this icon, this is the green color that I would make use of. Now that's fine. Now let's come here, let's create another rectangle that will be used to pick the yellow color used here in this background. So I would come here and I'll pick that with the eyedropper tool. Then I would create another rectangle, and I would use this rectangle to pick this yellow color used here in that icon. So I would come here, and that's fine. And there we have all the colors that we need to create all of these components. We have all the colors that we are going to need. So let's start the creation of these components. Now for this component here, we have this text that says attention needed and this lorem ipsum text. Then we have this icon. Remember, every element deserves its own container. That container can be an auto layout or a regular layout. So let's bring in this icon first. Now let's go to material symbols. Let's go to material symbols and let's look for that icon. We can have a caution icon there. Okay, this is it here. Now this is my caution icon, right? Now I may want my caution icon to be a 20 by 20 px caution icon. Now I would want you to take note of what's happening here. My zoom value is 100%. Do not forget that. So I would bring my icon in here, and this icon is supposed to be a field icon, not a stroke icon. So I would turn on the fill property, and there I have my field icon. And I will make the icon a 20 by 20 px icon, just like this. Then I would zoom in to 200% so I can see it clearly. Now it will be time for me to use one of those colors. I think the yellow color for the icon. So what's the color code for the yellow icon? I don't know, except I select this rectangle that has that color. When I select this rectangle, I would see the color code here. I would go there, Control C to copy the color code. Then come here, select the icon. When I select the icon, come here in the properties panel, you'd see the selection color section here. And I would go there, take out the current color code for the icon and paste this yellow color code for the icon. And here I have that. Now we need to create this text that says attention needed. Here we have the icon created. The icon is sorted. Take note, do not take the icon out of its container, right? Do not do that. So I would come here. I would have a text written that says attention needed. So I would say attention needed, right? And that's okay. Attention needed. Now, I would want you to take note of the font family I'm using. It's called Bricolag Grotesque. You may not have it, or you may have it. Now, you're allowed to use any font family of your choice. Just use a legible font family. That's all I would say. In my own case, I'm using Bricolag Grotesque. And for the weight of this text, I would make it bold for now. I'll make it bold for now. If it needs to change, I'll change it later. Then for the size, I'll make it 16. The letter spacing is okay by me. The line height is okay by me. Now, I would come here. I would create the other text, the lorem ipsum text. Now, the lorem ipsum text, I think this should be 17 words. This should be 17 words. So I would come here. I can even copy this lorem ipsum text here and take it into Figma. I don't have to use the plugin. I'll just come here, create a text box, and place and paste what I copied from that Tailwind website. Now, this lorem ipsum text, I would make it to be a regular weight text, and I'd still make it to be a 16px text also. It's just going to not have the same weight as this, and it's also not going to have the same bright color as this. Remember the visual hierarchy principle that we talked about, and that's fine. So now it's time for us to start putting all of them together to make this component. First things first, every element deserves its container. The icon is already staying in its container. That's sorted. For this text, it's not staying in a container. Now all text would definitely go into an auto layout. So I would select this text, hold down Shift and press the A key for that text to go into an auto layout. You can rename that auto layout to attention or whatever you want to rename it to. When you do that, always come here and take out the padding on all sides of the auto layout. At this point, it's not yet time for us to apply padding. So take out the padding. Now, if this confused you, just know that whenever you create a text, the first time you create a regular text and the first time you put that regular text inside an auto layout, that auto layout should not have any padding. I'll do the same for this. I'll keep it selected, put it in an auto layout, then set the padding on all sides to 0. Now, as you can see, this text here, which is inside this auto layout, is made up of more than 4 words, which means that there will be need for this text to adjust at some point. If I come here and I squeeze this component, watch what's going to happen. Which text component, which text content needs to squeeze or needs to adjust? It's this lorem ipsum because it's made up of more words. This attention needed is fine. Whether the screen is wide, whether the screen is small, attention needed is always fine. So attention needed, which is just made up of 2 words, does not need to shrink, does not need to adjust, right? Because it's fine, whether the screen is small like this or the screen is wide. So it is this lorem ipsum text that is having a lot of text or that is having a lot of words that we'll need to adjust. So since this is what we'll need to adjust or what we'll need to respond, we are going to come here and select the lorem ipsum text. Take note, I would select the text inside the auto layout. I have already put the lorem ipsum text in its auto layout. So now I would select the lorem ipsum text itself. Take note of that. I am not selecting the auto layout now that contains the lorem ipsum text. No, I am selecting the lorem ipsum text itself, which is inside an auto layout. Let's rename the auto layout from frame one to lorem AL, which stands for lorem auto layout. Right, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Now I would select the lorem ipsum text inside that lorem AL auto layout, and I would set it horizontal resizing to fill container, and that's going to have that unresponsive behavior sorted. Now if I resize this, you see that yes, the lorem ipsum text will always adjust, and that's all that we need. So we have this in a container, then we have the icon also in a container. So it's time for us to start merging these elements. Right, it's time for us to start merging these elements. So let's merge the two elements that are related first. This is another skill I would want you to always always keep close. Right, when you want to merge elements together, right, when you have lots of elements to merge, start with the elements that are similar, and also start with elements that are close to themselves. But first of all, similarity comes in first. Now, if you look at these three elements that we need to merge, all of them are close to themselves, right? But which of them is similar to the next? This is similar to this because this is a text, this is a text. So I would first of all merge the two elements that are similar and are close to themselves. You get it? So I would come here, I would merge attention and lorem ipsum into one auto layout, select both of them, put them in an auto layout, and then set the space between them in that auto layout to 8. I might even set that to 4 to have this, right? Now, when I set that to 4, I would rename the auto layout to combo. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I would rename that to combo. And what I'll do next is to just add a white background color on this auto layout so we can see it clearly. Then I would want to check to see how this lorem ipsum text will behave if I resize this auto layout. You can see the lorem ipsum text is not behaving properly. So all I just need to do is to select this lorem AL that contains the lorem ipsum text now. Remember, the lorem AL auto layout is inside this combo auto layout now. So I would select the lorem AL auto layout, and I would set its horizontal resizing to fill container. This behavior is normal. You would have it always. Now, when I do that, I would come here, click on the combo auto layout now, and I'll resize this. You can see we have the resizing working perfectly. So now it's time for us to bring the caution icon and merge it with this other content here. So I would come here, I would select the caution icon and this text area or the combo area, and I'll put them inside one auto layout. When I put them inside one auto layout, I would rename the auto layout to attention needed. You can call it whatever you want to call it, right? I would rename this to attention needed. When I rename that to attention needed, I would give it a white background color so that you can see there's no background color here, so that that can be covered. And I have this. Now let's check to see what's going to happen if we resize this auto layout. You can see when I resize this new auto layout called attention needed, this lorem ipsum text is not responding perfectly. The way to make that lorem ipsum text respond responsively is to select this combo auto layout that contains the lorem ipsum text. I would select the combo auto layout and I would set its horizontal resizing to fill container. When I do that, everything is going to be fine. Now, if you see that when I resize the auto layout, everything is responsive. Now, what about the space in this attention needed auto layout? What about the space between this icon and this combo auto layout? This space, what's the space? The space is 14px. Let's see how huge the space is here. We can just make the space 12. All right, or you can make it 16 if you don't mind, but I think 12 is okay. Let's make the space between the icon and this combo auto layout be set to 12. And all I'll do next is to come here, give this some padding all around. I would select the attention needed auto layout and I would set a padding of 12 on all sides on the auto layout, or even make that 16 if I don't mind. And you can see we have this. Now, the only thing we just need to do is to design things like the color of the text and the color of the background. That's all we need to do. Right, so first things first, let us change the color of the background for this component to this yellow background color. So let's click on this rectangle that has the yellow background color code, copy the color code, click on this auto layout and change the color from white to that. Now this auto layout inside is using white. Let's select the auto layout and change its own color code from white to this. And you can see we have this, right? You can see we have this. Now you can extend this to this point, just like it is extended here. You can drag this and everything will be responsive actually, right? And there you have that. Now we can also come here and change the color of the text. The text color needs to also change. So I would come here, I would select the attention needed text, select the text because it's the color of the text we want to change. And I will come here and I would keep this set to this. I want to make it too bright. Then for the lorem ipsum text, I would reduce the brightness of that color, right? Because it doesn't have to be too present also. So I'll reduce it to this and I think I'm good. Let's see what we have there. Okay, let me make it a little brighter. Let's make it brighter like this, and that's fine. So I can work with this. Keep that selected, set the corner radius to maybe 8, and with that I'm okay. So that's that for this component, right? This is all you need to design, or this is all you need to do to create a component that looks like this. That's all. Now the most important thing here is that the component is created with an auto layout and it is responsive, just the same way it is responsive here. Just the same way it is responsive here. Right, as you can see, it's responsive here also, just like this. So let's move on to create the next, let's create the next component, which is this. Now, if you look at this component, we have a similar process, right? We have a similar process. There were 2 errors with your submission. So let's come here, let's write that. There were 2 errors with your submission. There were 2 errors with your submission, and we have 2 list items that says your password must be at least 8 characters. Let's write that also. I would come here, I would say, you all know how to create a list item, right? You can use the hyphen key on your keyboard, press the hyphen key, then press spacebar. You'd have these bullet points appear. I would say your password must be at least 8 characters. The password must be at least 8 characters. I'll duplicate this text to have the next item that says your password must include at least 1 pro wrestling finishing move. Okay, your password must include at least 1 pro wrestling finishing move, and that's fine. Right, so we have all the text content we need. Now let's bring in the close icon, right? Let's go to material symbols and let's look for that icon. Let's look for the close icon. I think we are going to need this, right? But it's supposed to be a field close icon. Let's look at this here. It's supposed to be a field close icon like this, and that's okay. So we are going to keep it selected, then make sure the icon is a 20 by 20 px icon. Don't forget your consistency, right? We started with 20 by 20. Let's stick to 20 by 20. Now what do we do next? The next thing to do is to put all of these elements in their respective auto layout. I would come here, select this, put it in its own auto layout. I would rename this there. I would rename the auto layout to there. Keep the auto layout selected. Take out the whole padding on all sides and set that to 0. Right? Now, this text is more than 4 words. Right? That's more than 4 words. So I would select the text. Since it is more than 4 words, I would select the text inside the auto layout, and I would set the horizontal resizing to fill container, and that's fine. Now for this text here, for this your password text, I would also keep it selected. put it in an auto layout. Rename the auto layout to your password. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I would call that your password. I would set the whole padding on all sides to 0 like I always do. Then since this text is made up of more than 4 words, I would keep the text selected, not the auto layout, the text. I would keep the text selected, then set the horizontal resizing to fill container, and that's fine. Now I would also do the same thing for this text here. Put it in an auto layout, and I would rename this to Pro Wrestling. You can call that whatever you want to call it. I would rename the auto layout to Pro Wrestling, then keep the auto layout selected, and make sure I take out the whole padding also. Set the whole sides to 0, then select the text inside the auto layout. Since it is made up of more than 4 words, I would select it and I would set the horizontal resizing to fill container, and that's fine. Now it will be time for us to start merging things together. So let's merge these two list items together because they are the similar content that we have there first. The both of them are made up of bullet points. They are list items. So let's merge the both of them first. I'll select the both of them. Then I'll put both of them in an auto layout. When I put both of them in an auto layout, I would rename the auto layout to list combo. You can call that whatever you want to call it. Make sure this auto layout still has a padding of 0 on all sides. Then for the space between the two items in the auto layout, what are the two items? This item and this item. They are the two items inside this auto layout. For the space between them is set to 17 currently. That's a lot. I would set the space to 8. Right? I would set the space between them to 8. And I would ensure, right, that they are responsive. Now, what's going to happen if I resize this auto layout that contains these two texts? See what's going to happen. When I resize the auto layout, the two text auto layout in this list combo auto layout are not responding. And that's because we have not set their horizontal resizing to fill container. So let's select this auto layout called your password. Let's select this auto layout, set its horizontal resizing to fill container. Select this auto layout called Pro Wrestling and set its horizontal resizing to fill container. The moment I do that and I come here now and I resize this list combo auto layout, you can see that the text content inside of it will be responsive just the way we want it to be. And that's all we want for that particular auto layout. Now it's going to be time for us to merge this and this. Right? It's going to be time for us to merge this and this. So let's come here. Let's merge this now with this. Put them in an auto layout. When I put it in an auto layout, I would come here and I would rename this to, let's rename this to their where. You can call that auto layout whatever you want to call it. I would rename it to their where. Give it a white background color so we can start seeing clearly. Now make sure that none of these auto layouts that we have been creating have any padding value. As you can see, so far all of my padding has been 0, 0, 0, 0. Right? Now for this auto layout, which I just called the where, the space between the items in the auto layout currently set to 18, which means the space between this and this space here is 18 pixels. Now I would want that space to be 16. And that's okay for me. Now the next thing I would want to test is to test and see how the elements in the auto layout will behave when the auto layout is resized. As you can see, when I resize the auto layout, the elements in the auto layout are not responsive the way they are supposed to be responsive. So how do we fix that? I would select this child, this element in the auto layout, and I would set the horizontal resizing to fill container. I would select this child here called list combo, and I would set the horizontal resizing to fill container, and everything is going to be just fine. Now, when I select the where auto layout and I resize it, you can see that all the elements in there are responsive the way we want them to be. Now, what else can we do? It's time for us to merge this close icon with the where auto layout. Let's see how many minutes we've spent so far. All right, we have enough time. So now it's time for us to merge this with this. Now I have merged the close icon with the where auto layout. Now I have a new auto layout called frame 1, but I would rename it to error. I'll just call this error alerts. You can call it whatever you want to call it. When I call that error alert, I would give it a white background color. Then I would go ahead to check and see what's going to happen if the error alert auto layout is resized. When I resize the error alert auto layout, you can see that the text content are not responding. Now, all of these text content are inside this auto layout that I called there were. So I would select the there were auto layout, and I would set the horizontal resizing for it to fill container, and everything is going to be just fine like this, right? Now, one last thing to do, or one next thing to do, is to come here and set the space. Do not forget these things. You might find yourself being lazy about these details, but these details will end up affecting the overall design, right? So what about the space between this icon and this there were auto layout? You can see this space here is currently 28. Now I don't want that to be 28. I want it to be 12, the same way the space between this icon and this is 12. I would select the error alert auto layout, and I'll set that space to 12, and that's fine. Now, one next thing to do is to set some padding on this auto layout. So I would set a padding of 16 on all sides of the auto layout to have this. And as you can see, the component is coming together gradually. The only thing we just need to do now is to use the right colors for this. So these are the colors. This is the red background color. I would copy the color code, come here, select the error alert auto layout, and paste that color code there. Now, when I paste that color code, you'd see that this auto layout called there were is still using white. I would select the auto layout called there were. Then I would paste that color code, and I would have this. Now, for the color of the icon is to use this red color, which I have already. I would copy the color code of that red color, come here, and I would select this icon here. When I select the icon, I would go to the properties panel, scroll down to selection colors, and then paste that color code there, just like this. And there we have that. Now it's going to be time for us to change the colors of the text. Although we don't have the color code for that, we can just as well look at them and then just play around with the colors for the text. First things first, make sure that this text here is bolder than this. Of course, they can't be the same width, or they can't be the same weight, right? So I'll select this text, I'll make this bold, and keep this set to regular. All of this set to regular. Now for this text that I have made bold, I would come here and I would give it a red color that's not too bright, something like dark red, or a red shade that's not too red in the eyes, and that's okay, right? Now for this text here, I would select this text and I would give it this red shade that's going to be like this. Let's see how it's designed here. Okay, let's come here, let's come down here. Okay, let's use that red shade. Let's use this red shade rather. I would copy the color code, come here, and I'll paste this here. And here we have this, right? So you can see we have the error alert component, and we can set the corner radius to 8 just like this. And here we have this, so I can now expand this to this point also to balance with this. So we have two components created. Now you can see these components clearly if we put them. Let's say we take this component and we put this component in a white background, maybe on a frame, right? There we can see these components clearly, right? And you can see them here clearly, right? So if I come here, now you can see we have these two components looking like this. So now the most important thing to note is how we have been able to utilize auto layout to achieve this, right? Making it a seamless experience, right? That's the most important thing. How we have been able to use auto layout to achieve this without having issues at all. So everything is consistent, spacing is consistent, style is consistent. And you can see that we have also been implementing the visual design principles that we learned when it comes to color and when it comes to text, right? We've been implementing it, right? The background color of the text must contrast with the color of the text. The text must also be used, or you must also establish visual hierarchy amongst the text in your design. All of those principles, we are keeping to them. And you can see how those principles affect the final outcome of our design. Even though we are not really taking time to design this, we are not really putting too much effort in this. No research, right? No research is being done, no iteration, no testing the waters. We're just going straight. But those principles are guiding us. So we are going to move on to create other components. Let's see how many minutes we've spent. Okay, let's create this other one, which is the other completed component before we create this. And then, okay, we have other ones to create. We still have more to create actually. So let's come here, let's say other completed. Now I want you to take a close look at my zoom value. It's still 100% now. Now it's 200. Now I would say other completed. What else do I need to write? I would copy this and I'll paste it here. And that's fine, right? Now both of them are 16px. Now let's bring in this check icon using material symbols. So I would come here, I would say check, right? And that's the check icon there, but I'll bring it in and make it a field icon, then also reduce the size to 20px, just like that. So I have this icon here. And the next thing I would want to create will be these two buttons, although these buttons are designed to behave differently, right? You can see that when you look at them initially, you just see two text, one saying view status and one dismiss. It is only when you hover on view status that you would notice the button borders, the button shape. It is only when you hover on dismiss that you would also notice that button shape. Now, we are not going to implement that effect now because we have not talked about anything yet when it comes to that in the bootcamp, right? So we are just going to create the two buttons and not give them that button shape. We are just going to create the view status text and the dismiss text. So I would come here, I would create view status and dismiss, view status, then I would have dismiss here, right? And that's okay. Now the next thing to do is to put every element in its container. So let's start with the order completed. And of course we know what to do. Padding to 0. This text is just 2 words, so we don't need to set horizontal resizing. I would rename that auto layout that contains that text to order. Select this lorem ipsum text, put it in an auto layout, set the whole padding to 0, and I would rename this to lorem order. You can call that whatever you want to call it. And since this text in this lorem order auto layout is made up of more than 4 words, I would select the text and set its horizontal resizing to fill container so that it can be responsive when adjusted. And that's okay. Now I would select this view status text and I would give it an auto layout. Now for now, right, I would set this to 0, the whole padding to 0, right? For now, when we learn about, or when we learn what we should learn about, we are definitely going to see how to make sure that we don't just make this 0, right? We are going to see how to not make the whole padding 0. The padding would be something around 4, just like this, right? But we are going to come to that later. For now, let's just set the whole padding to 0. Or okay, I might say let's set it to 4, but let's set it to 0 since we have not learned that yet. And I would rename this to view status. Select this, put it in an auto layout, set all the padding to 0, and rename this to dismiss. So we have all the elements ready. It's going to be time for us to start merging these elements. So let's start by merging these two elements. They are related elements. They are similar. The both of them are buttons, right? So I would come here, select these two, put them in an auto layout, right? When I put them in an auto layout, I would call that auto layout button group, keep that auto layout selected, and control the space between the auto layout, right, to 8. Or let's set it to 12. Let's see how wide, how far away. Okay, that's actually some good space. Let's set it to 24. And that's okay, 24px. And take note, this auto layout does not have any space around it. There is no padding space. Now, the next thing will be to merge this and this. Put both of them in one auto layout. Merge both of them in the auto layout. And rename this to upper merge. You can call that whatever you want to call it. I would call this auto layout upper merge. Then I would control the space between the two items in this new auto layout. What are the two items? This and this. Now this space is what I want to control. So I would select the upper merge auto layout and I would set that space to 12. Let's see how it looks. I'll set that space to 12 and that's okay for me, right? Then I would come here. I would bring this here and I would want to test to see what's going to happen if the upper merge auto layout is resized, because it contains an auto layout that contains a text that has more than 4 words. So what's going to happen if we resize it like this, right? You can see the text in that auto layout is not actually resizing. So I would Control Z to go back to how we were. And then all I just have to do is to select that auto layout called lorem order. This auto layout that contains this text is what I would select. When I select the auto layout, then I would set the horizontal resizing to fill container, just like this. And this is going to happen. It's not a problem. Just select upper merge after you have done this and resize it. And you see everything is going to go back to normal. Now it's time for us to merge this and this. Let's merge them together into one auto layout. Let's call this new auto layout text group. You can call it whatever you want to call it. I'd call it text group. Keep it selected, give it a white background color so we can see things clearly. Then I won't put any padding. I won't put any padding yet. All I just want to do is to ensure that the items in this auto layout are properly spaced. So what are the items in this auto layout? The items are upper merge and button group. So what's the space between them? The space between them currently is set to 24, and that's a lot. Over here, I don't think it's up to that. So let's come here. Let's set the space between them here to 16. Let's have this. Now I would select this and I'll set the space between this to 8, because I don't want the space to be the same. I want the space here to be more than the space here. So this is going to be 16, this is going to be 8, and that's fine. Now the next thing to do is to check and see what's going to happen when I resize the text group auto layout. When I resize it, you can see that this auto layout here that has lots of words is not resizing, it's not behaving well. So I would select the upper merge auto layout that has an auto layout with a text with more than 4 words. I would select it and I would set it horizontal resizing to fill container. This is going to happen, it's just fine. Select this and expand. Now it's going to be time for us to merge this and this. So without wasting time, let's just do that. Select this and this, merge them together in one auto layout, and name that auto layout to, let's call this order completed. Right, now keep that auto layout selected and give it a white background color. Then do not forget to check and see what's going to happen when this order completed auto layout is resized. As you can see, when we resize it, the text in the auto layout are not responding at all. So what do we need to do? Just select this auto layout called text group. Select this child auto layout called text group that contains the text content. Select it and set it horizontal resizing to fill container. And that's going to work just fine. Now, you see when I resize this, everything is working just fine. Now you might be wondering, why is it that when I merge two auto layouts together, I'll need to select the one with text and set it horizontal resizing to fill container? If I set it to fill container once, why is it that when I merge into a new auto layout, I still need to select the one with text and set to fill container again? You might be imagining that. Now, that is because from the beginning, I select the lorem ipsum text itself and set it horizontal resizing to fill container. That was the text that I selected. I didn't select the auto layout containing the text. So when I take the auto layout containing the lorem ipsum text and put it in a new auto layout, that time, what I need to set will now be the horizontal resizing of the auto layout containing the lorem ipsum text. The lorem ipsum text has been sorted from start. It's been sorted from beginning. I don't need to set it again to fill container. As long as I set it the first time that I created it and put it in an auto layout, as long as the first time it was in an auto layout, that text was set to fill container. As long as that's what happened, that text is sorted. Now it is the auto layout that contains the text that will be needed to set to fill container when you put it in a new auto layout. So that's why anytime we go inside a new auto layout, it is the former auto layout that will now have the need to be set to fill container. That's it. So I would come here, I would select this new auto layout now, and I would keep it selected, set the horizontal resizing. Okay, I'll keep it selected, and the space between this is 21. That's not what I wanted. The space between this icon and this is 21. Please do not forget these very little details, right? You can see I was about to skip that. So I wouldn't want the space to be 21. The space that we have been using has been 12. I'll set that to 12, right? Keep the auto layout selected, set padding on all sides to 16. And there we have this. Everything is working just fine, right? Now, what do we need to do next? To set colors. Now, what's the colors that we need? The green colors, right? So I would come here. Let's look for the green colors. So this is the green color used for the background. I'll pick that, select the auto layout, and put that green color there. And of course, you can see this other section still make use of the white color. I would select this text group auto layout, and I would give it that green color still. Then for the icon is making use of this green color. I would select the color code for that green color, select the icon, and then change the color of the icon to that green. Then for the text, right, of course, we need to implement visual hierarchy amongst the text. This has to be bolder than this, and this also has to be bold. So I would come here, I would select this text that says order completed, select it, I'll make it bold, right? Then make it dark green, come here, make it dark green like this. Then select this text here that says lorem ipsum. I would make it not very green and not dark, just something like this. Then I would select this view status text. I would give it a weight of medium. Select dismiss, give it a weight of medium. And the both of them will be making use of one color code that I'm going to choose just now. And I want this to be this. And I would select that color code for view status and put the same there for dismiss. And there we have that. And I would give it a corner radius of 8. And we have this component created already, and everything is looking just fine, right? So we can take this now over here, and you can see we have this, right? So the components are coming together gradually and gradually. You can see we have this, we have this, and we have this. And all of the spacings and everything is just consistent, right? So we can go ahead to create others. So I can come here and create this one here, which is just a one-liner. So I would copy that, and I would create this also. So I would copy this. Let's see how many minutes we've gone so far. Okay, there's still time. I would copy that text, go into Figma, and I'll paste the text here. Now I'll make sure this text is 16px and it's going to be a regular text, a regular weight text. Keep it here. Then bring in this icon. Now let's look for that icon. Let's go to material symbols. I think that icon should be the info icon. So let's search for that icon. And if we can't see the exact icon, let's just use this, right? Let's make it a field icon, just like this. Now, do not forget, all of our icons are 20 by 20. So I would set the size of that icon to 20. And I'll keep this here. Very easy. Now let's come here. Let's create this link here that says details, that has an icon in front of it. So I would come here, I would create details. I would say details, and I would want us to bring in the arrow icon that can be used for that details link. So I'll bring in a short arrow icon, not a very long arrow icon. This one could cut it. So I'll bring this in. Now when I bring that icon in, do not forget, it has to be 20 by 20. So I'll bring this here. I'll keep it with details so I can merge the both of them when they need to be merged. And that's okay. Now let's look at the arrow icon. I think let's try this. This and this, which is going to work best. Okay, I think let's use this. Let's see, first of all, 2020 details. I think I would want us to use this. That's okay. So let's come here. Let's take this out. We have all we need for this component. So let's start merging. So I would come here. I would merge these two on the left. Now what we need to focus on is the position. These two elements are on the left. These two are on the right. So let's start by merging these two on the left and merging these two on the right first. So I would come here. These two that are on the left will be merged into one auto layout. Don't forget, please, put them. This one is inside its own container. Let this go inside its own auto layout on its own, right? I'll take out all the spacing, all the padding spaces, set that to 0. I would rename this auto layout to a new, then select the both of them, put them in an auto layout. And now that this icon and this text is inside one auto layout, I would come here and I would align the items in that auto layout. The alignment is not good. I'll set that to vertical center. Then the space between this and this should be set to 12. I want that space to be 12 pixels still. And that's fine. Now, since I've forgotten something, since this text, right, called a new software update is more than 4 words, let's select it inside its own auto layout. Let's select it. Okay, I think I've made a mistake here. Now let's bring out this text. Let's start afresh for this. So let's start afresh. We have the icon. All right, let's bring out the icon. Let's start afresh. So this text will go inside an auto layout. I would rename the auto layout to a new, keep the auto layout selected, set all padding to 0. And since this text is made up of more than 4 words, I would select the text and I would set the horizontal resizing of that text to fill container. Now it's going to be time for me to bring this auto layout and merge it into a new auto layout with the a new auto layout. Just like this. Now this auto layout is called frame 1. We can call it whatever we want to call it. We can say left content. Now for the left content auto layout, we need to control the space between this icon and this auto layout that contains this text, right? And this is the space that we need to control. So I would select the left content auto layout and control that space, bring it down from 36 to 12 so I can have this, and that's fine. Now, one next thing to do is to select the auto layout that contains this text, which has more than 4 words. I would select that auto layout and still set its horizontal resizing to fill container, and that's just fine. Now I have this. Now it's time for us to merge this and this together. So I would come here. Now you can merge both of them into one auto layout at once, or you can put this details text inside its own auto layout, since it is the only element here that doesn't have a container. This icon has a container. It doesn't have a container. So I can put it inside its own auto layout and call it details, since it doesn't have a container. Now the text has a container, the icon has a container. So the both of them can be merged into a new container. Now, when I merged both of them inside a new container, I would make sure, please take note of the alignment, zoom in to look at how they are aligned. You'd see that inside this new container, the details auto layout is sticking to the bottom somehow, while this is sticking to the top. There is no straight line alignment, right? If I zoom in clearly, you'd see it, right? The alignment is off. So I'll keep the frame 1 auto layout selected and come here and use the alignment button now. I would come here and I would align to the center vertically and to the left horizontally. Watch what's going to happen when I click on that button. You can see that the details text will be taken up. The alignment will now be perfect. Now, what about the space between the details text and this? Or what about the space between the auto layout that contains the details text and the layout that contains the icon, this space here? It's too much. I'll set that space to 4 so I can have this, right? And there we have this. We are good to go. Or we can set that space to even 2 if that's too much, if 4 is too much. And we can call this details button. Whatever you want to call that is fine. So it's going to be time for us now to merge details button, which is on the right, with left content, which is on the left. So I'll select the both of them, keep them on a straight line, select the both of them, put them in an auto layout. When I put them in an auto layout, I would give that auto layout a white background color. Then this auto layout, of course, we would have a padding of 16 on all sides, so we can have this. Now, the next thing to look out for is, how do you want this auto layout? How do you want the contents in this auto layout to behave whenever we resize the auto layout? Now, it's a simple logic. When this auto layout is resized, right, horizontally, I do not want this details auto layout to leave the right position. And I do not want all of these to leave the left. I want this auto layout to always stay on the left, and I want this auto layout to always stay on the right. That's how I want them to behave whenever I resize this auto layout. Let's rename it to let's rename this to info layout. So whenever I resize the info layout, I want this to always stay on the right and this to always stay on the left. So in essence, I want these two children in the info layout to always stay away from themselves, to always stay apart from themselves. And the only way I can do that is to create a space between the two of them, a forceful space between the two of them that will always grow automatically and shrink automatically. So I don't want to define a space between them. I don't want to set a fixed space between them. I want the space between them to be automatic so that it will always push the both of them to the both ends. When I create an automatic space between the two of these children, that space will always push the both of them to the two ends, one to the right, one to the left. So that space is called an automatic space. It's called an auto space. So instead of me to come here and set a fixed space, instead of me to come here and say, let the space between this and this be 64, I would say no. I would select the info layout, come here, and I would choose the auto value. This is me setting that automatic space that has the power to push one item to the left and the other to the right. I would set that to auto. Now, the moment I set that to auto, see what's going to happen. The moment I set that to auto, you see what's going to happen. When I increase the width to the right, details will always stay on the right and this will always stay on the left. If I reduce this also, the both of them will always stay where I want them to stay. One will always stay on the left, one will always stay on the right. So this is the best way to create a component like this that has one item on the right, or that has some items on the right and some items on the left. The moment you have a component that has some items on the left and some items on the right, the easiest way to create that effect, the easiest way to create that type of design is to set auto on the main auto layout. Set your space between to auto. Auto will create a space between the two elements, and that space will be the space that will be pushing this to the left and be pushing this to the right. So that's what we have just done here. So I would come here now and I would want to use the colors that we are supposed to use. So I would bring this here. I would use that blue color on the icon, select this blue color, select this icon, and then put that there. Select this text, and I will try as much as possible not to make the text to be too blue. Let's see how it looks here. Let's set the background color also. Let's use this blue. Copy the color code. Set that as background color. Now let's select the text once again. Let's set a new color for the text. And I think that's okay. Then let's come here. Let's have the details text. Have that blue color that we have used here. Let me copy the color code here and use it for this details. Come here, go to selection colors, paste that and paste that. I personally think this blue color is dull. So let's come here. Let's have that. I think this one is bright. Let's use it here also. And that's okay. Keep that selected. Set the corner radius to 8. And here we have this. So I can bring this in. Just like this. And here we have this. Now I can resize this to this point. And details will always stay on the right, while this here will always stay on the left. So you can see we have this. Now we can also adjust this color here. Now I have some ideas to make this bright. And there we have that, right? So you can see we have all of these components looking the way they look also, or similar to how they look here. Now for this component here, we can just recreate this component the same way we have created this, right? The reason why we may not do this is because I am running out of time and I need to talk about the assessment, the midweek assessment. So for this component here, you are going to create this component the way we have just created this one. Then over here, what you'd have will be the X sign, the close icon, and you would select the auto layout and still set your space between to auto, so that this will be pushed to the right always and this will be pushed to the left. So if I duplicate this, I can even have that. I can duplicate this to have something like that, right? I can duplicate this to have something like that. I can come here, set this to successfully upload. Although there is a little glitch, but that's not a problem. Successfully uploaded, right? Successfully uploaded. Now I want you to take a close look at the auto layout currently that has successfully uploaded. Now this is something that you won't encounter if you create it from scratch. I'm just trying to use a shortcut here, but if you create this from scratch, you won't have this problem. You can see that successfully uploaded is not filling up this whole space. This space is wasted. So I'll just select this auto layout that contains successfully uploaded, and I'll set the horizontal resizing to hog content. Select this, set this to hog content, and everything will be sorted. Now you won't encounter this problem if you create this manually. You won't encounter this problem at all, right? So successfully uploaded. I would advise you to create this manually. Then over here, do not have details, just have that icon. Then also change the icon here to this one. Now for this component is very easy to create. All you just need to know is this. You'd set your stroke on the left to something yellow like this, and then you would create this as an independent text. Now this is the component we might create differently after I introduce the task of the mid task, the task for the midweek task rather. So let's come here. This is the midweek task. The midweek task is for you to recreate this chart using Figma. Now we are currently looking at user research, and user research is really big on how you present data. So everybody here must know how to present data in a very coordinated way. And one way to present data is to create flow charts, right? So everybody here should redesign this flow chart. Look at it closely, right? Redesign the flow chart. Use auto layout, use the pen tool, use anything you want to use. But at the end of the day, redesign this flow chart the exact same way that it is. Now, this is a redesign. This flowchart was not created by me, right? This is a flowchart that I got from the Figma community, and all you are meant to do is to redesign it. In the process of redesigning this flowchart, you would learn a lot about how you can present data. Make sure you are precise. Take your time to recreate this. The deadline for this task is by Friday, because by Friday we are going to have a new task for the weekend. So this is all you have to do midweek. Now, since we have talked about the task, and for this, to get the copy of this design, the link to the Figma file that will contain this design will be in the description of this video. So check that video, right? Check the description of this video rather, to see the link to the Figma file for this flowchart, and also the link that you will use to submit this midweek task will be in the description of this video. So check the description of this video for that link also. So let's come here and let's see how we can create this quickly. Let's copy this. It says you have no credit left. Right? So I would come here, I would say you have, let's delete this one. You have no credits left. Now, I want you to know that this text is different from this. This is a text you can click on to take action. You can click on this text to take action. This is just a regular text that you just look at to learn or to read, to learn from or to read. This is just to show information only, but this is more than showing you information. You can take action on this text. So these type of text are called text links. So if you recreated this design and you created the two of them together, you have made a mistake. This is a different element entirely. This is a different element entirely. So let's copy this. Let's come here and let's create it differently. Now you can see when I copied and pasted it in here, Figma actually just added that link. Now I don't want that link, so I have to create this manually. I don't want the link added by Figma. I want us to make it, to have that underlying effect on our own. Upgrade your account. To add more credit. That's it. So I have this and I have this. Then we are going to have the caution icon. I think we have the caution icon somewhere here. So let's just bring this, select it, hold Alt and drag it out and have that there. So we don't have to create it from scratch, it's there already. So we bring this here. So now it's going to be time to put all the items in their own auto layout. This will go in its own auto layout, set all the padding to 0. This will go in its own auto layout, set all the padding to 0. And since this is made up of more than 4 words, I would select this text, set the horizontal resizing to fill container, select the text also, and then come here, go to type settings and make sure it is underlined, just like that. And I think that's all. Now let's merge this and this into one auto layout. And let's keep the space between the two of them in that auto layout to 2, right? Keep them very close. And let's select this auto layout that contains this text with more than 4 words. Let's set it horizontal resizing to fill container. You can also set this to fill container if you want, but this is the one with more words, right? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can let that pass. I would come here, I would rename this to text section or call that whatever you want to call it. And what do I do next? I would bring in this icon here, keep that icon there, and merge all of them into one auto layout. Then I would say, okay, for the space between this icon and this text section, I want that space to be 12. I'll set that to 12. Then finally select this auto layout here and set the horizontal resizing to fill container. Then do not forget, select this auto layout and set your alignment to center vertically and left horizontally. Now I may have missed some of my alignments, right? Now, when you are watching this video and you notice any alignment that I miss, please make sure you correct that. So I would come here, I would give this a white background color first of all, set a padding of 16 on all sides, and I would expand this, of course, to this point. And what I want to do is, of course, give this a stroke, then click on strokes per side and just select left. Then increase the stroke value to 4 to have that. I think it's up to 4. Then I would make this stroke to have this yellow color, just like this. And the background of this component will be the yellow color that we had used before, actually. This yellow color here. It's going to be this. Right, and even the text, I can make the text to be, I can make the text to have a different color that's almost gold, right? Sorry, I'll select the text. And this text here also should use the same color. But this is supposed to look bolder, right? So I'll select this text. I'll change the weight to medium or semi-bold like this to have that. And that's fine. And there we have that, right? So this is not also difficult to create. Not also difficult to create. You can see we have this created and everything is just fine, right? So we can come here and stretch this and everything is fine. Now we can go ahead. Let's look at the alignment here. Alignment here is okay. The alignment here, let's set this to center. Everything is okay there. Select this. The alignment to the top is okay. Everything is okay there. This is still okay. Okay. Very okay. So we actually do not have any alignment issue here. And everything is just fine. So we have been able to recreate these components, right? And if you go through this video slowly once again, you would learn more detail that we must have covered, right? You'd learn more detail that we must have covered. So this is how you go about recreating your designs using auto layout. You can agree with me that this is more interesting than using rectangles, or this is more interesting than you using regular layouts, right? You can agree with me that this makes you feel more like you are designing software. It makes you feel more like you are designing software. So we are going to stop here, and for other tasks that will need corrections, we are also going to have videos like this that will walk us through the correction of those tasks. Thank you very much. See you all in the next class tomorrow morning, or this morning rather. It's 4:13 a.m. So see you all this morning or this afternoon.